discussion. We'll come back to you, sir.
Sir, we will start. मैं यहाँ से start करूँगा इसको. So let me give a chance. ठीक है. फरहान, आप तैयार हैं? हाँ. ओके, बस इसकी ट्रांसमिशन स्टार्ट कर देना इसकी. ठीक है. जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम. अल्लाह के नाम से शुरू जो बड़ा मेहरबान और निहायत रहम वाला है. Welcome to the Petroleum Club of Pakistan focused technical series session, and we are talking about the shale and tight gas potential of Pakistan, and it will be our second session of on this topic. So Haq Minhaj Saab is moderating the session, so I will request him to please take over and start the session. Haq Minhaj Saab.
Okay, thank you, Tai Saab. So, and welcome everybody on this forum. We were having some informal discussion earlier on with Dr. Saeed, and we will come back to that. But before that, let me very quickly review what we discussed in previous session. In the first session, we discussed, for some people who have joined this session the first time, that probably will be helpful for them as well. In the previous session, we discussed a couple of ideas. The main points were that in addition to shale gas, we have tight gas as well. And in fact, the topic of this forum is tight and shale gas. And tight gas is a little bit not really in the limelight. And whereas we know that tight gas is easier to develop, so one of suggestion from everybody was that there should be a focus on tight gas, and perhaps a data collected by different companies should be shared so that a countrywide tight gas system can be properly characterized and understood and developed properly. So there are some issues here, whereas things like pooling of the data, how can we do that? Where the data belongs to different companies. So these are the kind of things that we will deliberate during coming sessions, and people like Dr. Saeed Yadoon, we are fortunate to have him here in the forum. He will help us out. In fact, he has many different connections behind our imagination, believe me, and he will help us, in fact, kind of finding ways over these obstacles, and how we can share this data. That is one thing. Now, we also know that there are some companies like POGC and Mari Petroleum. They have developed their own best practices of data collection and characterizing tight gas. Perhaps they can share their best practices so that other companies can also follow that. Of course, there are some practices which are well known in the industry, but there are some things which are country specific. Over here, for example, what are the where they are doing core analysis, how they are mobilizing the different things, how they are over various different logistical issues. So that will be really very useful, and many people can kind of learn from each other. So this is one thing. The other thing we discussed in the previous session was that the technical resource, recoverable resource that was estimated for the shale gas, many people are questioning about that. So far, we only know the numbers coming from two different studies, and we would like to, in fact, everybody in the team, they wanted to know a bit more about this, the origin of this number, the number one, and secondly, where are the gaps in our understanding? That was another thing. Now, in fact, we are waiting together with Dr. Saeed Yadoon Saab to help us, Mr. Shakir from Weatherford, who did that study, to brief us about this data. Okay, now this is about the previous. So tight gas, focus on tight gas, a little bit more sharing of data, best practices, and these things, and then on the shale gas, having a review of the past studies that were done. Okay.
Excuse me. I have one question. What do you mean saying sharing the data? Do you expect that we share our data with anybody? Or
not really with everybody, but let's say, in fact, tomorrow you are trying to understand the tight gas over your tight gas, and And if you have, your data is limited to your own blocks, if you have access of some data from the neighboring blocks only for the tight zones, because the thing is that compared to conventional, which data is limited to a very small region, which could be only your block, tight gas and shale gas is more regional. So that is not just, so that you really, you cannot confine your information to your block. You have to go behind your blocks. So it is in your interest, and it is also in the interest with other companies. So we really couldn't find out a way, and it will be difficult. I know it's challenging, but we have to find out a way how we can share this data. There were many different ideas by different. Another thing is that there are companies who are not interested in tight gas, but when they drill wells, they go through tight gas. So now, in fact, when they encounter through tight gas, how can we motivate them to collect data over the tight zones, although it is not in their interest, because they have no intention of developing those tight gas. Okay, so these are kind of very good thoughts which were discussed, but how to really kind of take this thing to next level, that is still a challenge.
I just welcome to everybody here, particularly Makos and Atar Jami from UK and Ali Mukati from Saudi and all the participants from Pakistan. Thank you very much for participating in this webinar. Regarding data sharing, but Makos little bit worried about the sharing of the data. Every company has a little bit fear of this secrecy. What we are talking about is a science data sharing, is a tight quality or characteristic, not reserves, nothing relating to the commercialism of any company, because we know companies are on stock exchange, so we don't want to disclose or things which hurt reserves calculation, the resource calculation. We are talking about usually what kind of tight rocks you have, what you have done it, and what is the success story behind your behind the development of your tight gas. That is important for us. And all the resources which has been submitted to DGPC is Government of Pakistan, so they can be published because they are already on the stock exchange. So there's no worries about any commercialism disclosure here. So you are free to speak about the rock science rather than reserves. Okay.
Yes, thank you for this point. I believe that I wanted to say just this thing that we of course provide all the data to the DGPC, so the data are with the government actually. So everybody who could take a look into the data can purchase the data in the normal way of procedure, right?
Yes.
So and I believe that the more focal point at this stage of the discussion would be that we can share our experience and how we manage with our tide formation actually, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely. Very good.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Doctor.
Okay.
You just have to share the data acquisition process as well. What kinds of data you were acquiring for understanding tight gas and exploitation of tight gas or development of tight gas as well.
So first of all, the main thing is that we have to follow the policy, right? Tight gas policy. So of course we know right now that our PAP formation is a tight gas formation, right? And according to the policy, we have to certify each well separately. So we have to collect the data from each well to justify or to find out the many answers and find out what are the real properties of the formation in this particular well. Because as we know, this is a fluvial environment. Which is very diverse laterally and vertically. So each well is slightly different. The formation is very changeable. So we have to acquire the proper set of analysis to fulfill the requirements of the policy. So there are three major requirements. First, your formation as a net your formation cannot have cannot has a better permeability than 1 millidars, right? So the interval you produce cannot be on average, of course. It cannot have a permeability better than 1 millidars. This is the first point. Second point is that you have to acquire some kind of advanced technologies to produce your formation, and this is, for example, advanced perforations, hydraulic fracturing, drilling of horizontal or deviated wells. And the third point is related to the production and to the economy of the production. So you have to justify that without any advanced technologies, as I mentioned in the previous point, without acquiring these technologies, you cannot produce your gas economically, on the economic rate. So those are the 3 points we have to follow. So of course we collect. Of course, from this reservoir formation, we collect first of all, of course, cutting samples, then core, and then on core we perform many first routine core analysis, as everybody does. I mean, porosity, permeability, density, and etc. And after that, you have to type your zone for a special core analysis to take a look deeper into your formation to find out what is the effective permeability and how does pores and and this permeability actually looks like in your formation. And of course, we performed, as everybody knows, the advanced testing. I mean DST in our wells, pre-frac and post-frac DST to find out how the production or how the rates look like before fracking and after fracking, and this is the main point in our tight gas study, for the certification mostly. So this is the pretty shortage of what we do in our wells. Of course, I didn't mention the advanced as well, advanced wireline logging. Of course, dependently on the well conditions, we always want to apply as many as we could, but the reality is more challenging, as pretty well. So sometimes we cannot do what we really want, but we try our best to take as many data as we only can during our wireline job as well. So this is how it looks like. What else can I say? Maybe we'll move to some kind of the discussion, and then maybe they will be easier to point or to focus on some specific points, right?
That's good, Marcus. In fact, last time we had some discussions on tight gas. Perhaps you can also share a little bit about your wish list or your challenges that you are facing. For example, doing routine core analysis. Do you wish to have some lab over here for mobilizing your equipment? Do you face some difficulties, or do you think these procedures of certifying well are too cumbersome or too difficult? What are things that can make your life easier?
Regarding this certification process, yes, I can say a few words about this. Because I'm not sure what is the intention of the forum over here, but I believe that if you work on the shale gas policy, I believe that you could want to also make some slight or maybe major corrections to the existing tight gas policy as well. I'm not sure what is the intention, but from our perspective, some improvements would be required, because first of all, and I remember there was like 2 years ago or something like that, there was a PEPCA meeting where we discussed this matter as well. And as I remember, the main point was to the main discussion was about the improved tight gas policy and new shale gas policy, and the main conclusion was that we have to prepare this policy, which will be interesting for the, let's say, foreign investors to come to the market and to invest their money, right, in the market. So I would say that this existing tight gas policy has some problematic things that create a lot of issues for the company who want to certify their wells. First thing is that you cannot certify your reservoir as a whole reservoir, right? If you have a particular block, as in our case, this is the Kirtar block, so we cannot certify the PAP formation in Kirtar block as a tight formation on the whole concession. We have to certify each well separately. So first of all, this is very costly because we have to apply a lot of analysis, a lot of methodologies in each well, which of course increases our costs. This is the first thing. Second thing is that this is the pretty time consuming, because each certification process is at least, let's say, all the tendering, then study, and then the decision making period is even up to half a year, sometimes even more. So the next thing, which is coming directly from the previous one, is that until you didn't certify your well, you cannot get any money from the gas produced from this well. So it means that even if we start production of the gas from some particular well, we cannot get any payment for this produced gas until the well is certified. So it caused a situation like that for I don't remember which well was that exactly, but for one well we got first payments after let's say 1.5 years of production, which of course is really problematic from the higher management, especially in the head office, right? So we are dealing the serious problems, and we have to explain the situations many times why it works like that. So summarizing, the certification process is very complicated. Few months ago, we prepared together with DGPC the terms of references for the next 3 wells we are certifying right now. So, and I believe that this cooperation with DGPC this time was pretty fruitful, and we worked on that TORs. We've been working on the TORs for a long time. So I believe that right now everything is clear, and DGPC is involved into the process of certification. So we'll see how it's gonna be this time. Maybe this the final decision period will be much shorter than previously, but it will come out in next few months, because the study just started. So regarding these sampling procedures and all these lab issues and distribution of samples and things, I would ask Itesham to explain a little bit, because he's a specialist and he's an operation geologist in in our department. So Shami, could you please explain a little bit how it looks like from the logistic point of view?
Yeah, so Assalamu alaikum and good morning to everybody. So adding with this, with the Michael statement, we got this approval process from HDIP. Sorry, for DGPC, because HDIP is receiving the samples on the behalf of DGPC, and then
Yeah.
it took very long to get the approval to import export the plugs, because we don't get, let's say, unofficially the leverage like the other government companies to send the core as smooth as possible. So we are getting the problem to send even the plugs to abroad, because the scale labs and other analyses like rock mechanics, which are also related to the indirectly to our this lengthy tight gas certification process, it would likely that these all analyses will be or were done abroad, right? In not in Pakistan. So it took long for us to just take the approvals, and then in the custom process we have to submit the letter, and it took very long to just deliver these samples to the destinations where we got these analyses to be done, and then we can share with the DGPC, and then rather it will be facilitated for the site gas certification.
Okay, this is good.
So
So,
these are,
Makos, if you mentioned that you are discussing this thing with the DGPC, are these
Mhm.
logistical issues also being discussed?
No. The discussions I mentioned are mostly related to the process of certification
Process of
itself.
certification. Okay.
Yes, it's
Okay.
related to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is Dr. Saeed Saab. In fact, I can see
Yes.
Tariq Asni Saab and Sabri Saab.
This is
You
the
want to ask some questions?
Yes, this is the first thing, and I think that it might be some perspective for future. That right now the GPC tries to be involved into the process, and maybe this is the good point for the to start further discussion on the future of the tight gas policy, because from our perspective, and I believe from any other company's perspective, it would be great to improve this policy more into the direction to make this process easier in terms of, let's say, possibility of certification of the whole formation as it is, because
Yes.
because it creates a lot of efforts to certify each well separately, and it will be pretty difficult to, let's say, invite foreign investors to the country
No,
without
this is
giving,
Yes.
important. We understand that this is really important.
without giving them pretty specified, and let's say maybe even how to say it, something which will
It should be done, obviously.
yeah, it should, and
Dr. Saeed Saab, is there somebody from DGPC can
Yes.
join us? Or please, can
Yes.
you say
Yes.
something on that?
What? Yes. Unfortunately, I could not ask anybody, but one thing I can tell you that one of the objective of this forum is, as Ali Mukati was saying before, that what is our objective, as Manasa was saying. So this is one of the objective, that the problem the companies are facing now with respect to the tight gas policy, and unfortunately there is no shale gas policy at the moment. However, the issues which we are suffering because of this tight gas, like transfer of sample, acquisition of data, and one certification of the reserves and reservoir from well to well basis. These are the issues which need to be discussed, and we will take this issue to the DGPC for the to facilitate the company for development of tight gas. These are the very important points you are making, and I think we will take it to the government.
and
Excellent.
sir, there is one point to be added.
Tariq Saab,
There
you
is
want?
one point to be added over here, that these third party companies which are certifying the tight gas certification should be from the local companies as well, from the Pakistan, because
Can
many
be.
companies they are participating in DGPC for the bidding, So there should be some local players or local experts. They will also appear in that bidding to certify the tight set gas certification. That will be another important point. So DGPC will have an ease to just certify it, and the company will get the
Sham,
more quickly certification.
unfortunately, there is no big company or smaller companies certifying the reserves and reservoir both in tight gas locally. However, the weather for
डॉक्टर साहब की आवाज नहीं आ रही।
Problems with connection.
डॉक्टर साहब आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। डॉक्टर सईद साहब आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। मीनवाइल तारिक असनीस आपका कुछ क्वेश्चन था, यू आर रेज योर हैंड।
जी थैंक यू। नहीं, मेरा क्वेश्चन नहीं है, मेरी कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं और कुछ कमेंट्स हैं, और वो ये है कि व्हाट आई रियली वांट टू गेट क्लैरिफिकेशन, I mean, where we are standing right now, and either this nation and Pakistan is really interested to get out of it the shale gas and from the tight gas. These are the key things, and we need to understand where we are right now. I mean, every day you talk to somebody and you realize that yes, the Pakistan has so much potential to get it exploited and to be developed, and we are waiting for right people and right investment money to come in and just to start digging into it. But the point is that
you came late. Tariq sir, you came late. In fact, Dr. Saeed Saab has mentioned he's preparing a paper that we hope to see, and we are also trying to get a presentation from.
No, but
I hope we will get a clarification on that.
All right, that's good.
But one thing, Tariq, I just tell you that with respect to the tight gas policy exists.
Just let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish what I am saying. Just let me finish. So the point is that I have heard that there are so many studies already being done, right? The Reservoir was one of the company who is leading, and Schlumberger might have supported them, and OGDC had taken the lead. But how the data is being produced, and whether the data is available to discuss openly in the technical forums, in the geotechnical workshops, or at least some part of the thing is really need to be discussed openly. I mean, without getting the confirmation that not every company has all the data of the shale gas, neither the entire Pakistani company, they are quite keen because they probably cannot afford it, or they don't really have a business priorities at this stage. But that is something what we will need to understand, what is our standing right now. Either we are concerned to develop those resources, and if we have already studied certain things, that how we have reached to the conclusions, that how we selected the areas which are, we think that these are the sweet spots, right? So it seems that we have done something, but there is a lot of secrecy. So that secrecy should be slightly diluted. I'm not saying that the companies who have sacrificed their data for those studies, they should be openly available to everyone, but at least the technical credibility and the effectiveness of the data, what we have, where we are standing right now in these both things, the shale gas and the tight gas. Tight gas is not something which is difficult to understand, because we always have something to drill a well in the conventional area, not in the unconventional area. So these are two really different things.
Tariq, we actually know your 2 points of view, that where we are, how we can share the data. We can share the data and where we stand. Only for 1 minute I can explain to you a little bit. First of all, there is no shale gas policy exists in Pakistan. Number 2, the tight gas policy exists with 20% higher rate from the existing 2012 policy. If you have $6.31 per of a gas, you will get 20% more for tight gas. On the other hand, the tight gas certification has some problem, as Mako said, that you have to give certified reserves and reservoir both well by well, not by zone or by formation. That has to be. That has to be checked, and that has to be removed. Okay.
One more point I want to make, that look, if you're saying that the shale gas policy doesn't exist in this country, so what does it mean? It means that the Pakistan is not really interested to get that oil and resources out, because every investor, they will only come to get the money. I mean, this is then at the end, we should have to see that our entire discussion is going to convince those people who really matters in setting the policies to set the policy right away. I mean, otherwise, we can always be talking, and there would, as long as there is no gas policy and there is no gas tariff is concerned, is ready to be for investor, we cannot do anything.
Tariq Saab, let Dr. Sayyidun mention, and I think it is like a chicken and egg problem. Which come first? We should know how much resource we have before we make a policy. Yeah? Yes, sir.
No, exactly. So, no, I mean, if you are interested, then we would have to settle down this issue first. How we can make any product, we don't know what would be the price in the market.
I'm very personal. Just listen for a while. 5 years back, me and Dr. Farid Iqbal Siddiqui, PPL and OGDCL, we made a policy and we submitted to the government 5 years back. Policy somehow exists there, but unfortunately at that time, the oil pricing was $120. On that pricing mechanism, it does not now work at the moment. So because of the oil pricing issue, the shale policy was not passed, although it was going to be submitted to the ECC, but because of oil pricing was there too much, and then suddenly 2015 onward, the price reduced, and because of that issue, the government of Pakistan kept silent until they asked us. PPL and OGDC was responsible for the understanding and acquisition of the shale data. OGDC did get a lot of data. They acquired a lot of shale data from last 5 years. All the data is available. The PPL could not, unfortunately, have become the partner up till now with OGDCL. The government said that you should bring those data to us. On the basis of that data, we should formulate policy. So now the data is coming, the well is being drilled. Probably this year could be, from our point of view, from this club, we can make a recommendation to the government for the shale gas policy on the basis of the available data at the moment now. So we know the data. I will share you one slide. Maybe I can send you where we can explain the characters of the shale with respect to the American shale, all the producing shale of the world. So that you can understand, we have a potential, we have a resource, we have a frackability content. However, because there is no well has been tested, no fracturing has been done in the shale gas. Thai gas has a success story. Because of from that point of view, when we will drill a well, we frack it, and that will add to your more confidence. But at the moment, we have just raw property data.
Okay. So, Doctor, what you mentioned is that we are collecting data, and Tariq Hassan's point is that we should have a shale gas policy to attract investment. That actually is a valid point. Now, the question is that do we have to, or does the government have to wait for well data to formulate a shale gas policy? Can we, for example, take examples of other countries, just like Argentina, other companies? We know we have a shale resource. We know it is developable.
I think Southern and other people are here petrophysics. Every shale is a unique shale. And in case of Poland, you can see that they got a problem. In China, they got a problem. In the USA, 80% wells are declining and refracking, and a lot of things are happening with shale. So we need to have at least practical, dynamic, productivity data of the shale. Every shale is a unique shale. You cannot have an analogy exactly what is happening in America, although our characteristics are same. But maybe you have a clay content more, and you will not be able to have a more fracturing. So we have to drill well. We have to prove
trackability and deliverability has to be, tested once.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yes.
So, Akmira Saab, if I get a chance to talk, or you have some?
Yes, please. Sabda
All right. Okay, basically, Assalamu alaikum and good day, everyone. I am Muhammad Safdar, Principal Petrophysicist Special Major in Pakistan. So, Michael and Ihtisham, to some extent, has touched their tight sands in basically pub sands in Pakistan, and there are some challenges in tight gas certification and regulatory issues. Blah. So myself, since we are in the I'm on the tight gas sands topic, further going into shale gas. So what my personal belief is that we have a very good potential of tight sands, and it's being drilled through conventional areas, and it has good lateral and vertical thickness and multiple horizons. So I have few slides, two slides which summarize my last webinar on tight gas sands, where I think one of the main theme of this forum is to understand the resources and their characteristics, their challenges, and basically brainstorm on their strategy, how we better can evaluate and try to measure their potential and have some better strategy for exploitation. So all that point of view, I will just have two slides on some particular tight sands where their characteristics are, the challenges in specific to those ones, and what could be the better way of evaluation. And then on shale gas, I think it's in spite of the lot of studies and have been put the big numbers so far. Dr. Jadoon mentioned in the beginning, none has done a single frac in Pakistan. Very true. So the frackability, deliverability are two big unknowns, and it's any analog and sort of example could be, far from reality. So unless we do it, last time I mentioned that, and I got the answer that that's not our task probably, but I think that is the key part of the resource assessment, because just having the thickness of the shales and vertically and laterally and putting some general numbers and coming out of some resources, I probably maybe one part of the discussion, but the frackability and deliverability another one. So at this point, I will not take too much time, but once you allow me, I can share the screen and show some tight sands challenges and characteristics. Thank you.
Good. In fact, this is really what my plan was to do, is to, rather than everybody talking, it's a good idea to kind of arrange your thoughts in a couple of slides and present one by one. So that will be much more effective actually. And
so should I go ahead?
Discussed just now is that what is the yes sir.
जी साहब को जरा मौका दें, वो बड़े
इसाक साहब, सफदर साहब, we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Shaki साहब.
जी. Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Ji sir, please.
Assalamu alaikum everybody, and good afternoon. So far what I have understood, we are confusing probably shale gas and tight gas. I suggest probably we discuss these things separately. Okay. And okay, first the tight gas. The issue emerging out of your discussion is that there is a problem in well-to-well certification of the tight gas, in the involvement of the third-party certification, local third-party certification, and export of the samples, core samples. These are the three issues actually which need to be addressed, and for this you need to formulate some kind of recommendation for the DGPC, because I have been dealing these issues in DGPC. Probably it is possible a method for the export of cores and sample is very much clearly written down in the rules and policies, and it may be due to some persons who has been delaying these procedures. Otherwise, there should not be any problem in the export of the samples. Okay.
Yes.
The second is the third involvement of the third party certification. by the local companies. I have been convincing DGPC several times that our people, some companies in Pakistan also, they are in a better position to certify, but rather they may be doing better work than the other companies. But problem is that needs amendment in the policy. The tight gas policy where the names of the companies have been given. And in those companies, only the foreign companies are included. That needs to be included. The other companies, Pakistani companies, need to be included in that. And that should be your recommendation to DGPC. And just you will have to convince them. The most serious thing is this well-to-well certification. For this purpose, probably the companies will have to do initial work because either some regional study, they will have to conduct some regional study, and that should be certified that instead of going from well to well, we designate some areas, we demarcate the areas that these are tight areas, and any well drilled in this area will be considered a dry, will be considered a tight well. In the permeability varies from well to well. But if you conduct some basic study based on 2, 3, 4 wells, only then we can designate some area to be tight or otherwise. So before declaring any area, that study should be based actually on couple of wells. You can propose this to DGPC that area will be considered tight or otherwise based on the initial 3 or 4 wells. And after that, within that, DNP granted to the operator, any well drilled in that area would be considered tight well, whether the permeability is higher than 1 millidarcy or less than 1 millidarcy. Okay. The other point is the shale gas policy. Probably you have rightly said that we don't have the adequate data for this shale gas policy to formulate shale gas policy. Yes, you are right. If there are some pilot projects or the data of more wells, we can better understand the shale gas, our shale gas, and we can formulate some kind of policy also. However, because everywhere this American model is being followed. So based on that American model and our studies, we can chalk out outline of the policy, which can be further, refined after we have got the adequate data. I have been working on that formulation of shale gas policy.
You got a good point and you clarified the things which we are discussing. I think Vanasa Makos has some, he is raising his hand. Makos.
Yes, thank you very much. I would have one question to Mr. Saki. Good afternoon, Mr. Saki. We know a little bit because we had a lot of discussions about our pub sandstone, reservoir properties. We discussed a lot that matter. But yes, regarding that, what you said that there should be specified some areas which will be designated as a tight areas in relation to the specific formations, right? But you think mostly about the basin scale or block scale, or which scale you talking about? Because if you want to send a clear message to the potential investors in the Pakistani market, they have to know that some specific areas are designated as a tight areas, and they can do all the analysis. I mean, the geological analysis, then the economical analysis, having a specified price, specified policy, and they have to know what they're gonna do with that formation, with this particular formations, right? So it has to be done before the block will be put into the let's say bid opening round, and it has to be specified much earlier. So it would be attractive, and it might be a huge improvement into the currently existing policy to have specified areas and specified formations which are considered as a tight formation.
You are right. You are
Okay,
right.
I think,
Because we know where our areas are located in the basin position of every area. And based on our, countrywide study, as we have done for the shale gas study, we can designate some areas to be tight areas. Yes, you are right. In that area, those will become more attractive for the bidders also.
I
And
think,
this is one thing. The
I think
second is
very difficult. Basin-wise is a very difficult. However, formation-wise, you can have it like 2-3 wells or 1 or 2-3 wells on the basis of that. As DST data, you can do it. Now let's go to Atar Jamil. He is raising his hand.
Yeah,
just,
others up.
we can
Others
adapt
up, please.
both things. Both things.
talk
On
just
the
to-
basin wise, and if the block has been granted, then it is only possible because we know the basin position of the area, the block. But to designate it as a tight gas, what I have said is that after it can be only done after we have drilled 3-4 wells in the area. Based on those wells, we can designate an area that this block is tight gas area for this particular formation. Okay. Then they don't need, they will not be needing that well certification.
So, I just got two. Yeah,
Yes,
Let Atar speak.
that can be done.
Let Atar Jamil to speak.
Yeah, I just got comments on the policy and this specifying the area on the tight gas. On the policy, I think that has to be based on the ground realities. We cannot import policy from US, or we cannot make a policy based on the data in the US. So it's not going to work in Pakistan. We have to look into our own data. And based on that, we should offer incentive. If we got a good data, then we can make a policy which is more favorable to the government. But if our data is not like comparable with the best data, for example, in the US, then we have to give more incentive to the investor so that they can secure their risk. So there has to be connection between the ground realities, your data, and the policies. Otherwise, your policy will be in air and it's not going to work. And we have seen it in the past in our other policies as well. And secondly, when we talk about the specifying the area, so probably I would disagree that we can allocate an area which is specific to the kind of the tight sand or tight reservoir, because tight reservoir is specific to the formation or the horizon. It's not a geographical area, because different formation, their characteristic will change laterally. For example, if we talk about Lower Guru tight sand, tight reservoir hotspot, the best spot would be somewhere elsewhere. If we compare with the pub formation or any other formation, it will keep moving. So it has to be specific to the formation. And secondly, I do not fully understand like how we define like tight gas. Tight gas, as far as I understand, it was the cutoff in the US, they were more like political driven because of the Fed tax and all that. So we have to look into any formation which cannot be commercially or economically produced without stimulation. That has to be treated as a tight gas or tight formation, irrespective of whatever the cutoff would be.
Yes.
Because these cutoff would be different from area to area. So that's my two comments on these two things. Thanks for that.
Jadoon sir, please let me say, yes, whenever we talk of the tight gas, we talk of the specific formation. The tightness of the formation can be determined on the basin, on the basis of the position of area in the basin. Probability, that we will be talking the probability. Okay, that can be done. And what you are saying is that we go by the two-way approach. Two criteria should be set. The one is based on its regional study and its basinal positions. The second is if after granting the area, after drilling 3-4 well in the area, if we in the pub sandstone or in the Guru sandstone, if generally 3-4 wells tell us that the sands of the Guru, the objective sands are tight, then that block, only that block can be designated as the tight block.
Yeah.
Because we are facing some problems. We are facing problems of certification. Third party certification.
Saki Saab, I think the way Atar said, it's not a block, it's not a field, it's not an area, it's the formation characteristics which makes it conventionally flow or not flow without any stimulation or a horizontal well, whatever the technique we apply. So basically, what I'm saying, it's formation characteristics. You can have one lower Guru sands conventionally producing at one location. Few kilometers away, it may not produce. So irrespective of block or area, the one does not produce is tight, one produces is not tight. It can be vertically, laterally, any position.
That we understood, that goes without saying, as you said, as Mr. POGC man, he will confirm that even in their area, in POGC area, there is permeability variation, tightness varies from well to well. If one well is tight, less than 1 millirc permeability in one well, 2 kilometers away, the other well is, the next well is, I mean, that's not, it's more than 1 or 10, 15 millirc permeability in that area.
Of course, I agree. Of course, I agree, but we have this member.
Let's please speak one by one.
There are two parts. One part is recognition of the tight versus conventional, and second part, how to the certification. So these are two different things.
Okay.
This is good. The certification problem. They don't have to go for the certification. Otherwise, the understanding of the tightness, the variable factors which contribute to the tightness are otherwise, that is known to everybody. You all are sitting here professionals. You see?
Saki Saab, as an investor, if I come from the outside, as an investor,
yes, the way I suppose that they will be more satisfied. If you declare the areas after getting the block, if they drill 2-3 wells in the particular formation, so on the basis of that, it will be the investor will be more comfortable with that actually.
Saki Saab, investor is just if I can add here.
I think that's not entirely true. I mean, if you have what the Safdar says and Athar says, that's absolutely correct. That you simply cannot assign any area without drilling and without getting the reservoir parameters, all the details. So that's the thing that, yes, you can always have the reservoir characteristics position to determine where it stands. But I think the point is, as Makos has identified the Polish oil and gas case, is the process of establishing the certification. That needs to be improved. I mean, that's the only way. I mean, why they don't really go and, why the DGPC and the government of Pakistan, they don't really go to reassess the processes and make it swift.
Sure. This point has been understood. How we move forward, this is understood. We need to improve these few things which Makos mentioned, and Saab briefly said that there are 3 obstacles in certification of the results that need to be improved. Now move forward, and probably Farasat Saab is raising his hand. Let him speak what he likes to say.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Very well.
There are a couple of things. Actually, I was noting down some of the questions that I wanted to ask. First, from the gentleman from POGC Makos. When he mentioned that there are some difficulties in getting satisfied because we are here to discuss some things that we can recommend for the change in the policy. That is the intent. So what you mentioned is that you have some problems in when you have to certify every well. It takes a long time and production is delayed and all those things. And then you also mentioned that recently you worked with DGPC to agree to some TORs. So are you satisfied with what you have agreed now with DGPC, or is there some other thing that is left yet? first answer this question. I have a follow-up question.
Yes. So thank you. Very good question. Right now we have to follow the currently existing policy. So at this point, yes, we are satisfied with this what we achieved. During our common efforts to make the TORs, as good as they only can be, I believe, to clarify all the potential discrepancies on thinking about the process of the certification, how to deal with this kind of reservoir. I would like to mention one thing related to that's what Mr. Saki said. Of course, Mr. Saki, we know that the properties of our sandstone are different from well to well, but this is normal for this kind of formation, this kind of environment. But what if we have a 120 meters gross thickness of the pap sandstone and only, let's say, 50 centimeters layer of better quality sandstone? And this 50 centimeters is like, let's say, 50 millidarcy, and the rest of it is like a 0.9, 0.2, 0.1, and etc. Right? So that's why we are talking about the average permeability of the formation. And I understand that this 50 centimeters might contribute the production, but we cannot forget that we are producing from the bigger interval. Of course, it's not 120 meters. This is not our net, but the net is also significant. So this has to be clearly stated in this point. So, and even if American shale, as you very well know, we have layers of sandstone which has good properties, good reservoir properties, and in fact, for example, there is a formation which is called Niobrara, which is intercalations of sandstone and shales are productive. I mean, as a source rock, and but the most productive intervals are the sandstone intervals, which are charged from the shales, right? And the sandstone has sometimes very good permeability as well. So it cannot be treated that way, that if we have some kind of better intervals in terms of properties, it makes our formation in this particular well not tight, for example, right? So because this is not fair.
So Mr. Okay, Marcos, may I just interject here a little bit? That you see that the fundamental property of the formation is permeability. Once that permeability is given and the distribution of permeability across the entire zone is given, then you can decide and you can kind of simulate and expect whether this well is going to flow through conventional means just by perforation, or do you need some special means such as fracturing to flow this well. No. These studies can be done through simulation. We can basically generate a whole lot of scenarios that if there is a one layer of, let's say, 50 millidarcy permeability in the middle of less than 1 millidarcy layers, then will this well be able to produce through normal perforation or not? Do we need to do any stimulation? Because at the end of the day, what the government wants is that can this well flow economically without fracturing or not? Okay. Now that is, of course, one way of doing that thing is to go and do fracturing and just try to flow the well. If it doesn't flow, then do fracturing and see if it flows or not. To me, that is not a very scientific approach. A better approach would be to just do a simulation. Single well simulation will tell you whether this well is in different scenarios, whether this well can flow without stimulation or not. So absolutely that needs to be changed. One that is changed, and then we can base only permeability and distribution of permeability as the basis to declare that well as tight well or not. So I think the fundamental information is just the permeability. Once we know permeability, that is it. In fact, just going and fracturing that well and then declaring that this well is tight gas or not, that is, to me, is is not really the right approach.
Now,
But we can deliberate something.
One point.
permeability is the only parameter.
The well is declared whether it is tight or otherwise on the original data before frac data.
Okay.
After fracking, of course, yes. It is not after the frac, rather it is before the frac. Before pre-frac data, on the basis of that, we declare the well tight or not. Okay.
All right. So can I address my point of view to that what was said before? Yes, of course, we can do such simulations, but this is one point I would like to say in this place. When you drill the well, you have a just data from the core. And in our case, in our particular case of the PAPSAT snow and fluvial environment, we cannot say with pretty categorically how far this good permeable zone reach into our formation. I mean, how far it reaches, away from the well. This is the first point. That's why we perform the pre-frac DST, which at least in some part can tell us how much this better permeability continues into the formation, far from the well. So we perform such analysis, and of course we are using these results during our certification process as well.
Okay, so this was my question, and a lot of discussion happened, and thank you for all giving their point of view on that. And the one more thing that I wanted to say is that in that discussion, I like that point which came from Atar Jamil when he said that first of all, don't base everything on whatever, it's not necessary that whatever is done in US is good for us over here. That's how in some cases we have been thinking. But what he suggested is a very key point, and we need to note it when we will probably finalize our recommendation, that the permeability, where although it is one right now over here, but it is not a reasonable thing to have, because even in the same formation it will vary. It will vary based on the depth. It will vary based on the on the place where we are analyzing it. So it should be made open and only subject to this fact that if it can be produced without fracking or it needs fracking, that should be the key point rather than the cutoff of 1 millidarcy or 2 millidarcy it needs to be open. That will resolve a lot of things that we are discussing over here. So that was a very good suggestion.
Firasat Saab, the only problem thing is that if we decide the tightness based on fracturing, that will be a very expensive way of certification. It will just add to the expense. I don't know.
No. This is written clearly in the policy. What is the criteria for categorizing any formation as a tight? You see, that is also, and there is no problem with that, whatever is written in the policy. And regarding this American model, I would like
with due respect, sir, with due respect, we are stuck somewhere on the one point. I think we will move forward.
We have to move forward.
One point
before moving forward.
And basically, I think if I show you my Lord Guru Sambarsand's some observation, you will see that the permeability is probably the one who made policy must have been looking at certain parameter which can be governed, So the permeability, although should be the only, but it somehow makes sense because it is the one control your deliverability. So we have properties which looks favorable as they normally we see porosity, lithology, porosity, saturation. But you will notice that at the end of the day is how the hydrocarbon move out of it without any effort. So that's where the permeability has eroded. So I think it has some sense to have this certain number, but the other petrophysical properties could be variable, and it looks like apparently a conventional. But what makes it really tight is not the porosity, is not the lithology, is not the mineralogy, is not the saturation. It's what the ease the fluid can come, the hydrocarbon can come out of it. So that's where makes the vulnerability sensible thing to worry about.
That is another issue, sir. That is another issue. That is for all academic purposes. Academically, what we call tight or conventional sand, this is another issue. Otherwise, the crux of matter, the deciding factor should always be it is economic actually. Because even if the permeability, some formations and the thickness of the formation, that also matters. Even if the probability is less than 1 milliterce.
Saki sir, gentlemen, please let's try to move from this point. Let me ask you one question. Has everybody read this report on tight gas policy?
Yes, yes.
I know.
Very minutely and very carefully. Yes.
Saki Saab, could you please share that tight gas policy if it is not a confidential document? Let's have a look at that tight gas policy.
Available on the net. It is available on the net. It is available on the net. I can send you the comments also on that, which in the US, when I was in USA, they prepared those comments for the tight gas and sent to DGPC also. And some other comments.
I am the architect of this policy and I can give you no problem. It is already on website.
Okay, you are the architect of this policy. That's good. Okay, all right. So let's have a look at that policy and then let's give a chance to everyone to send their comments directly to Dr. Saeed Yadoon Saab and let him handle that, please.
Just a point here. Basically, the listening from my friend from POGC Makas. I think the way we can, I can fully understand the frustration he has, and we've been through when I was in Pakistan. So we have to minimize the subjectivity in any decision making, because there are discussion and that create a lot of frustration in the investors and in the company. Probably the best way would be when it should be addressed at the signing the PSC, because if from the UK, I'm going to Pakistan and I'm signing a blog, I know what I'm doing, where I am investing. If I'm going for the tight gas, so I should be aware upfront of the cost and the reward. So we know which formation in particular blocks are tight, which are not tight. So if I'm signing my blog for the tight formation, I should be kind of given the policy price for that. So if there is any permeable stake within that should fall within my tight gas incentives. We cannot make a kind of the subjective judgment like from one layer to the other layer within that. So we know that which are the conventional reservoir in the country, which are not conventional reservoir in the country. But if I'm going specifically for the tight and I specify in my PSC which are my primary objectives and they are the tight, and if the government think they are the tight, then there should be a policy price for that. Otherwise, it will be open for discussion and it will create frustration.
It is extremely difficult to define block. However, because in Pakistan, as you know, and every explorationists know that in Pakistan, there is a combination of tight gas, conventional gas, and shale as well. So we have three types of the reservoir. In the same well, you can have it. The problem is that on the basis of the block, it is extremely difficult to define it's a tight. We know it. We drill one well producing 20 million gas, and after 1 kilometer, we drill another well. It gas is 0.1 million cubic feet of gas. Even in Kandanwadi field, I can share you that one of the well was producing 60 million cubic feet of gas per day, and in its western side, it was so tight. We have fracked, and even after fracking, it produced only 2.26 million gas in the same formation. So problem is that in Pakistan, all the formations are overlying each other. So on the block wise, it is extremely difficult. However, on the basis of the formation or zone, by testing a well, you can justify First, you have to certify your results on the first well, and then on the same layer, if you got a DST and have a minimum permeability equivalent to the tight gas policy, you can have a tight gas policy price. That can be done easily, and it needs a little bit more work to explain to the government what are the difficulties companies are facing, and now the difficulties has been understood, so we can formulate those recommendations to the government.
Yeah,
if a layer is, Dr. if a layer is defined as a tight gas in one well, and will it be taken as a tight gas in the other well as well, or it will keep changing from well to well?
Unfortunately, layers or permeabilities are changing from 0.1 millidarcy to 20 millidarcy.
It changes.
1 million gas to the 50 million gas. This is the problem.
There is no way we can define the zone.
All right. So that's what Mr. Dr. Jadon said. So I understand that nothing will change, right? In terms of policy and in terms of,
you can change. Yes, by testing a well, you can justify
for exploration.
So at the end of the day, we are considering the geometric mean actually.
Basically, the properties are heterogeneous laterally and vertically, but gas policy could be a more pragmatic approach based. So basically, what the one is reality and how to handle with that. That's, I think, another task.
I think that what maybe one solution would be what Pakistan pointed out, that it may be related to the number of wells that you did, like 2 wells, 3 wells in so many square kilometers, then that portion can be regarded as the tight zone. But you cannot do without anything. You cannot do before allotting the block that somebody was suggesting that it's not possible.
Yes, for us, generally, the investment decisions are based on drilling before drilling a well. It's not like after drilling the well. For example, if I have to convince my company to make investment, so I'll make decision in advance. I cannot convince my company, let's drill 3 well and then we'll decide. This is not the things working.
Other Saab, your decisions are made like this, that if you get a conventional gas, the price will be this much. If it happens to be a tight gas, then the price will be different. So that is the information that you know beforehand. You wouldn't know beforehand whether it is going to be tight gas or not.
Yeah, correct.
Which is clear enough.
Let me clarify what I said. Actually, there are 2 ways of declaring some area to be tight or otherwise. The first I said is about the blocks which have been granted in routine, which are already granted to some party. You see, or if somebody through the new bidding, if somebody gets some block through the normal bidding process, and he drills first well in that area, and he estimates that some particular formation is tight formation. The result tell him that this could be tight in the area in my block, but the decision should not be based on the one well. He should well 2 or 3, 4 wells, and on the basis of that, the area, the block should be declared as a tight gas. Even after that, some wells may be having higher permeability or lesser permeability. This advantage should be given to the operator. That area, mostly the block is tight. If 1, 2, 3 wells are, the probability of those wells in that formation is more than that, it's his luck. Okay. This formula and this model has been practiced, is being practiced probably in some countries also. And they have been successful in that. Let me clarify the second. Second thing is, everybody, you all have geologists, you know that based on the geological model, regional study, you can predict that these areas are the basinal sands, you can say on the margins of, on the basinward margins of the basin, the possibility of those some sand is more in that area. It will always be formation specific, layer specific, that these layers or these formations could have tight gas potential in these areas, and those should be marked on the regional and the country basis. You see,
एक suggestion है साकी साहब, there is
And
one suggestion. Maybe that
we
will
should
work.
make a focused discussion again on this tight gas policy. I think we need to stop this thing now. And there are many people. Everybody wants to ask some questions. I suggest that, gentlemen, I suggest that we defer this tight gas policy right now. We have discussed it more than enough. So if people have other questions, move on to the next question. Let's do that, please. From
Yes,
tight
I
gas
have one
policy, no
point.
more questions.
I have one point to just add over here, that what I discussed in the last meeting as well, that PPL, OGDCL, special other state-owned companies, they will facilitate the other small companies regarding the service providers. Because of the less job volume, service providers are shown to be very expensive for us. Like the one example is the frackability, the fracking companies, because there is only one frack fleet within Pakistan, so they are very expensive. So, and then the frack expertise, they are very expensive. Then there are few tests related to the like frack testing related core tests. They are in Pakistan. They have no expertise within the Pakistan. So, like the other big players, they will facilitate within the Pakistan the service providers to just provide them the job volume, or just ease them, or we can push DGPC to just improve the policies regarding the customs and other things, so we can get the things in a competitive rates, and we can explore, or we can get this tight certification in less money, as we have experiencing a lot of problem right now.
This is
You got a good point.
this
We
is
were asking a
really
lot of time.
My
we
suggestion,
have really,
my suggestion is, okay, let me clarify. My suggestion is that the first study, it should be actually the scope of work of the first study should be actually more, some kind of basin study should be made, and the subsequent studies. If the normal, this current practice
We are
continues,
moving on. We finished this tight gas policy. We later but understood, because we are stuck on few things which we will probably discuss very detailed. But now the next question is how we can increase the volume of the tight work for fracturing jobs, so that the smaller company, if they want to have a fracking, so it should be cost and time effective way. So what we need to do now, we need to ask a lot of company, maybe through PEPCA, that they should get the volume of work. Whoever the company has some tight gas, they should start developing it by planning, and then the total volume of fracking job, the service company will bring those fracking unit, and it will be most cost effective for everybody. This is the biggest question, and I'm talking about this thing for last so many years, but unfortunately we were unsuccessful. Maybe through PEPCA we can take this initiative. This is a good point what he was making. We should increase the volume.
Dr. Saab, in addition to that, Dr. Saab, let me just say one word here, that just now Sham Sir has mentioned a very good point, that we don't have local companies, we don't have local expertise. So and many companies, many countries, they are actually supporting the local service industry, and we do not have that culture over here. That is something that we have to really develop. The resource that we have is human resource, and we are not really utilizing that. We have to develop some local expertise and local companies, local service providers over here.
What I can offer in this case, we can offer that we can have a talent pool of these people, and we can go to the DGPC, that at least particularly for reserve certification, not for fracking and other job. So we can do particularly this reserve certification job easily in Pakistan, but a lot of people are here, and we have institute like suppose HDIP is there, it can offer you services. We can have a talent pool, and we can do this reserve certification, and we should be helping our smaller company or local company for getting more jobs in this country. This is a good point, and we can work on it, and we can think over it.
because you can get yes.
At least DGPC will just invite the proper manufactured companies within Pakistan. They can ask the OGDCL, PPL, and other companies to just listen to them, because I think nobody is aware with the very important part of the proppant manufacturer companies, because mostly the service providers, I am not mentioning the name over here, they are just getting the Chinese made proppant within Pakistan. So we have to make some awareness regarding these all little dynamics of this tight gas development and this workflow as well.
Yeah, that is all
I want to
correct.
make one point,
Yeah, things
Haksab,
you need to remember
if you
No,
can.
no, no.
that
What
the
I was
state food
saying,
companies, whether OGDCL or PPL, they are not going to give you the volume that we have 20 wells and have 30 wells unless we figure out the things that we are debating. For example, many things that are related to the policy. They all have tight gas opportunities available with them, but they are not going. I can, because I was with the PPL, I can tell you this is the situation there. Until they get the economics clear, as Athar was saying, even at this point, they are not ready to give you the volume. These many wells are available. So we have to give them some incentives, some clarification before asking them how many wells you have for drilling, so that we can get the frac units from Schlumberger or other companies to come into Pakistan. So we have to
yes,
first
Haksab,
wait.
one
that
point to
may
make.
be done. It can only be done if you designate the areas as a tight or otherwise. Because in that case, you will be having some kind of estimate. There's so much wells can be drilled in this area. You see, and the rates can be reduced only on the basis of the volume of the work or economy of scale, what you call it. So in
So
that case, the rate can be brought
can we
down.
understand, for example, what you are saying for few years? For example, for 3 years, this is the
Yes,
designated area. Anybody come and drill, and he will get the tight gas from this horizon. This can be, recommended to the government, to the DGCs.
there
कि
can
एक
be.
आप 3 years का या 5 years का एक period मुकर्रर करें. Then
Yes,
afterwards you can change the policy.
yeah. So then you will have the lower, of course, and the quality of material. Well, probably that's the companies can judge those and control that they should get the good material. Uh, okay,
अच्छा,
sir.
एक पॉइंट हक साहब, मैंने शायद आपको एक ईमेल भी किया था ग्रुप में कि जो मेन फैक्टर है वो इकोनॉमिक्स है वेल की, स्पेशली इन शेल गैस, और उसमें जाहिर है कि हमारे पास हमें पता है कि यहाँ पे जो वेल्स की कॉस्ट है, क्योंकि डेप्थ यहाँ पे बहुत कम नहीं है, तो वो फॉर्मिडेबल प्राइस है.
इंग्लिश बोलने ताकि वो आदमी बैठा हुआ है मैकोस से है, प्लीज.
ओके, वो थोड़ा नहीं भी समझेगा तो कोई नहीं. So the point is that the price, the cost of the well is really formidable becoming very formidable in Pakistan. As I said, as probably if we would have almost the 50 to 60% of cost of any shale oil or shale gas well is on the completion, testing, fracking, and rest is almost on the other things. So that's mean that we would have to reduce this price. So for example, if, as I said in my email, that if we have a $15 million well and the cost would be, assuming the double of the well cost, it's been $30 million, and if we are assuming that the one well is producing about 1 to 2 BCF gas in 5 to 10 years, so we need to have a lot of wells. So now you can assume that if you have 100 square kilometer area, and for taking a drainage area for 2 BCF for about 8 to 6 square mile drainage area, which is quite a big one, but since we will go horizontally, so if a $30 million well, the only way we could need to go forward is that if we would manage to reduce this price. The reduced this price is that we should have our local resources. So the local resources, we don't really have it. So on the other hand, there is another point that we have discussed, that okay, now what we have to prioritize, and we can encourage the local investors to come and provide the services. But why anyone would come? Because we haven't showed anything to them. So why anyone would come down here and say, all right, because the Pakistanis, they are thinking to plan the shale gas. We wanted to have a plan there. So we would have to establish the industry first. I mean, what is the important is the pilot project. If we do not have the pilot project in first place, that's a risk investment. Is the risk investment means once we prove it that the potential lies there, you may expect a lot of the business would come down here, but unless there is no pilot project, we cannot do it. So this is again is a catch-22 position.
If I can, just on the well cost, basically, I can share my experience. Basically, it's all depend on the economy of the scale or the scale of the activity. For example, in Kenya, when we started the first well, it was a quite a remote basin. So we started with a $60 million well cost in the onshore vertical well. And then with improving the efficiency and our drilling practices, we came down to 15 million. And when we 15, and then eventually when we expanded our kind of the number of wells, so finally before the actually FID and all that, our final well cost was close to $66 million. Now, it was improving through the efficiency and all that, but when we plan our 400 well program, so then our well cost was less than $2 million. So that's a kind of thing starting from 15 million to $2 million. So the reason being is if you think on that bigger scale, then you can optimize the cost. Otherwise, there is no magic bullet to reduce the cost. For one well, two well, three well, and frac that, every company, they work on kind of profit. And we have to accept that we do not have local capacity to do all these activities. We talk about these local things and extra, it's good. But at the moment, we don't have that capacity. It's going to take a while to build capacity if we want to do that. So we have to rely on the international service companies. So,
but this is a very, gentlemen, this is a very important point. That the thing is that when any company invests in Pakistan, the first thing they will look at this thing that how much drilling and completion will cost them, and when they know that they are dependent on foreign service companies, it will be very expensive. So we really have to do something to develop local service industry who can do horizontal drilling, who can do fracturing. That is so important. You know, Saudi Arabia, they have, after going through this exercise of unconventional development, they are right now what they are doing is, Mokati Saab is probably can tell us more about that. They are developing local service industry, and that is absolutely necessary, believe me.
Haq Saab, we have also experimented this. Jadoon Saab, where is Jadoon Saab?
GG.
The model was OGDC. You see, one time they were doing all their logging, cementation, mud logging, but now for still they are doing at very, I mean, minimum level. Some cement job, and yes, only one thing is intact.
Saki Saab, with due excuse, this is not the job of OGDCL. No operator in the world is doing services themselves. Providing service is a different thing. Shell doesn't provide service. BP doesn't provide services. Services are being done by other companies. So OGDC should not be providing services even for themselves. It should be a local company.
This is a different debate, sir. This is a different debate. Let's focus on the point. It's boiling down. The discussion is boiling down to the fact that whether it is the increase of activity that is required for the economy of scales, whether you need the local talent and local companies to come and participate in the business, it all has to make the economic sense, as Tariq pointed out, and Atar Jamil as well. So what we need for that is that in the beginning, maybe if we have to relax a lot, we need to recommend to the government for that many years, you declare that area of Pap formation, that area of Chiltan formation, that area of Guru formation to be tight areas. And then it is the luck of the company that if they get conventional in that area discovery, that's it. But that's how the activity will generate and the work will start. To start, you have to give concession, you have to give the incentives. Then after 3 years, you say, yeah, after 3 years, now we have the infrastructure, now we have the services available in the country, now we are going to tighten this thing. That's how things have to happen. But in the beginning, we have to really recommend that.
Prasad, yeah, this is I think the takeaway from this point forward is that we, particularly the big national company OGDCL and PPL, know where the tight gas they have. Every well in Lower Goru, we got a massive sand. Southern Nose, we have a baser sand, and a lot of wells have a tight gas, and we have suspended number of wells because we could not produce at that point in time. Because unfortunately, planning is lacking in our areas. Because we don't plan this well will come as a tight, and we could not manage anything at that point in time. We say, okay, rig will be standing there for 3 months, the rig frag unit will come and PEPRA rule and things like that. It will take 6 months to bring any frag unit back to Pakistan. So issue with, I have noticed two major issue. One is when we were planning well, we should be planning for tight gas development as well, tight gas data acquisition and its fracking. We only plan when we drill a well, we came out, we know that yes, now it is a tight, we can't do it because rig is, we cannot stand the rig there for 2 months. Let's move it, suspend it, and we will come back again. So this is a problem. The big companies should make a bold decision, should make a planning for fracking job, for a tight gas development, because infrastructure is there, particularly in Lower Goru area. In Sindh area, infrastructure is not issue. We should make a decision. Our company, big companies should make decision, and they can generate a volume of work, and they can lead the other company for the development of the tight gas. That is true, and they have economic health as well.
Dr. Saab, I want to make one point on tight gas based on my experience in Saudi and in Caspian area. If we want to produce, if we want to have a good production from tight gas, we have to drill the horizontal wells, okay? And not only we have to drill horizontal wells, we have to geosteer the horizontal wells. Yes. I give you an example from Saudi. In pre-CUF is, they define, there is no pricing or anything, but they define pre-CUF as a tight gas reservoir, okay? So, we drill a pilot hole, and then we drill horizontal well, and then we geosteer the horizontal wells, porosity geosteer the horizontal wells, okay? And then from 1 million to the production is increased to 65 million after the frac job in horizontal wells. So if we want a good production, we have to place the horizontal well in a good reservoir section, because sweet spots in shale gas and in tight gas, they are not continuous. You have to geosteer. And in one horizontal well, only to geosteer, we were using EcoScope technology, and we paid, the client is paying $1 million, $1 million to $1.2 million. So if we are talking about the policy, if a client, if operator is spending an additional technology, applying additional technology, costly technology to put the well in a better permeable zones, he should not be punished that your zones are permeable, then you are not paid, the amount. So it gets to drilling a horizontal well and placing the horizontal well in the correct place using the advanced technologies cost a lot. Okay, yes. So my experience say that we must drill horizontal wells, and we must drill horizontal wells in good part of the reservoir. And then fracking will play its part. But if we do not drill the well in a good part, we will not get good production.
Yes, that's true.
Sir, बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप. We need both these technologies. In fact, we have to master these two technologies in Pakistan: horizontal well drilling and hydraulic fracturing. And this is basically what really we know everywhere in the world. This is what will unlock both tight gas and shale gas. Talking about the example of Saudi Arabia, for example, the tight gas.
That is the question.
Sorry?
The question is how it will happen, how you will master if you not drill 20, 30,
by
40
doing. by doing it.
Economic sense.
It is by the thing is that it is something that what is that is a good question. Why we are not doing that? And we know that this is the fundamental things that we should do this thing. Why we are not doing
To
this thing
import
really,
the
I don't know.
LNG for a very expensive price, and we cannot give incentives to accelerate the activity in this area. That is exactly what we need to suggest to the government.
We have to work on
an exploration economic sometime you have to prove the economically before, and it is exactly like you cannot understand swimming without diving into pool, so you have to tell it and then prove economically.
But the thing is that
not that we didn't drill horizontal wells. We have drilled, but the incentive is not there to drill those expensive wells and produce from the tight formations.
No, Firasat Saab, with due excuse, let me just give you an example. You know, horizontal wells are being drilled since early 80s, and they are being drilled everywhere in the world without tight gas. They were being drilled in conventional reservoirs. So, and they also bring their advantage.
NASA भी ड्रिल कादुपुर में हमने 2500 मीटर किया है हॉरिजॉन्टल वेल यार कादुपुर ओजीडीसी ने किया है वेल
एक किया ना सर बहुत सारे करे ना
we were getting 10 times more production than a vertical well in a horizontal.
Exactly. This is the point, Parvez Saab, that in fact there are two ways of making it economical. One is they increase the gas pricing and work on policies. But on the other hand, if we use this new technology, especially horizontal well and well placement properly, as you said, and hydraulic fracturing, those we can get one well can give you production of 10 wells. So that is where you can make things more economical and cost effective.
Okay.
So
your point. So we can request the companies to drill horizontal wells, and we can request
we should not. No, we should not ask the companies. It should happen by itself. So probably companies like OGDCL and PPL, they should lead this thing and to start drilling horizontal wells and hydraulic fracturing.
Yeah, we are doing probably everybody is doing that already, yaar. The companies,
yes, they are doing it. We are doing
it. As Jadoon Saab said, that they have drilled 2,500 meter horizontal well in Kathgod, and there are many other wells in Kaderpur, which are about 1,000 or more than 1,200 meters horizontal. And wherever it is possible, as the PPL is
more than 10, every well
is better, they go for it. They go for it.
एक छोटी सी गुजारिश मेरी सुन लें, एक छोटी सी गुजारिश है. देखिए इस वक्त हम लोग हमेशा यही बात कर रहे हैं कि कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी क्या चीज है, और मगर पॉइंट वही है कि हम अभी इस पूरे प्ले को प्रूव करना सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है. मैं आपको छोटी सी एग्जांपल देता हूं. अभी यहाँ बात हो रही थी इकोनॉमिक्स की, ठीक. 3 कंपनियों की मैं मिसाल देना चाहता हूं पाकिस्तान में, जो पाकिस्तान आई हैं और जिनके पास कोई बैकग्राउंड नहीं था यहाँ पाकिस्तान की एक्सप्लोरेशन का, मां सिवाय चंद फील्ड्स का, और वो भी पोटवार तक महदूद थी. सबसे पहली जो कंपनी आई यहाँ पाकिस्तान में, शेल, जिसने पंजाब प्लेटफॉर्म पे वेल किए. उस वक्त कोई मॉडल नहीं था, कोई दूर दूर तक कोई एक्सप्लोरेशन की हिस्ट्री पंजाब प्लेटफॉर्म पे नहीं थी. स्टैंडबैक आई है जिसने बदीन ब्लॉक में 4 या 5 वेल किए, और उस वक्त तक वहां पे किसी किस्म का कोई कुछ नामो निशान नहीं था. और तीसरी हंट पेट्रोलियम आई जिसने भद्रा वेल किया, और ये जमजमा का वेल जो डिस्कवरी है फुलजी वो किया. तो पॉइंट ये है कि इस वक्त हम बिल्कुल एक शेल ऑयल और शेल ऑयल के मामले में या शेल गैस के मामले में अगर हम अपने आप को वापस लेके जाएं माजी में, तो हम 50s में खड़े कि जहां पर हमने मुल्क के जो रिसोर्स को, पोटेंशियल को प्रूफ कराना है. तो प्रूफ करने के लिए किसी ने तो रिस्क लेना है. या तो ओजीडीसी ले, या पीपीएल ले, या फिर शेल अगर अल्लाह करे हमारे पास फिर आ जाए, स्टैंडबैक आ जाए. ये चीज तो करनी है.
डॉक्टर साहब, इसमें कोई if we are expecting any international company will come in at this stage, it's very less likely. We should treat this shale gas as a strategic asset at this stage. उसमें होगा ये कि जो अभी बात हो रही है कि इन ग्राउंड
सर की बात बिल्कुल सही है, स्ट्रेटेजिक एसेट, बिल्कुल आपको ये एस्टैब्लिश करना है कंट्री के लिए।
देखिए सबको पता है कि यहाँ पे सिस्टम एग्जिस्ट करता है, प्ले एग्जिस्ट करता है, लेकिन प्ले अंडरग्राउंड है, इसको हमने प्रूव करना है कमर्शियली, वेदर इट्स कमर्शियली एक्सप्लॉइटेबल और नॉट। होगा ये कि पायलट प्रोजेक्ट पे अगर हम देखेंगे उस पर इकोनॉमिक्स नहीं बनेगी, वेल कॉस्ट डिफरेंट होगी। ये इकोनॉमिक्स इसकी अगर बनेगी तो इसकी फुल स्केल बनेगी डाउन द लाइन। लेकिन मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि पहले स्टेप में चाहे ओजीडीसी, पीपीएल या एज ए कंसोर्शियम इसको एक स्ट्रेटेजिक एसेट देख के इसको पायलट प्रोजेक्ट, एक से ज्यादा पायलट प्रोजेक्ट आपको करने पड़ेंगे।
अजहर साहब एक
बात सुन लें पहले मेरी पूरी।
आप
अगर एक पायलट प्रोजेक्ट, अगर एक बेसन के आप नॉर्थ में करेंगे, उसकी जो डिलीवरेबिलिटी आपको मिलेगी जरूरी नहीं है कि उसके साउथ में मिले या सेंटर में मिले। तो आपको 2 या 3 इस तरह के पायलट प्रोजेक्ट करके इसकी थ्रू हॉरिजॉन्टल इज अ प्रीरेक्विजिट फॉर टाइट गैस और द शेल गैस। वी कैन नॉट एक्सप्लॉइट, तो वो तो करना ही है, उसकी डिबेट नहीं है कोई भी। तो अगर इस तरीके से इसमें शुरू में पायलट प्रोजेक्ट पे अगर इकोनॉमिक्स वर्कआउट करेंगे, आपकी कभी नहीं बनेगी इकोनॉमिक्स।
Pilot is not for economics. Pilot is only for producibility. Pilot is only for producibility.
अच्छा, उसमें
economics जो है ना over the time economics will change.
उसमें ये होगा कि पायलट प्रोजेक्ट के बाद आप पॉलिसी बनाएं और फिर लोगों को प्रेजेंट करें कि ये देखें, ये हमारा डाटा है, ये वॉल्यूम हम कह रहे हैं, यही कर रहे हैं। अभी क्या हो रहा है कि हमारे पास पॉकेट में है नहीं कुछ, हम मार्केट में बेचने जा रहे हैं। मतलब कौन आएगा इस हमारी रिपोर्ट में? इस तरह कोई नहीं उसको बाई करते लोग बाहर।
मेरी 2 मिनट
जरूर साहब मुझे कहने दे। ये जो अजहर साहब बात कर रहे हैं ना, अजहर साहब जो बात कर रहे हैं, ये मोर देन 2-3 फोरम्स पे ये मेरी जो प्रेजेंटेशन है मैं पेश कई दफा कर चुका हूँ, और यही कंसेप्ट स्ट्रेटेजिक एसेट का मैंने दिया था, जिसपे लोग काफी सहमत थे। और एक एक्सप्लेनेबिलिटी का कंसेप्ट जो है, तो ये थोड़ा सा इसको अगर जिक्र कर देते कि पहले किसने कहा हुआ है तो ये अच्छा होता। तो ये बात सही है कि हमें स्ट्रेटेजिक एसेट के तौर पर इसको आइडेंटिफाई करना चाहिए कि ये एक्सप्लॉइटेबल है या नहीं, ये हमें कंफर्म करना है। अभी ये कितने अच्छे से लोगों को कन्विंस कर रहे हैं, इस बात पे नहीं आ रहे हैं, समझे। और उसके लिए ओजीडीसी और पीपीएल को आगे होना पड़ेगा, समझे।
मैं आपको क्लियर करूं, मैं आपको क्लियर करूं जो मुझे पता है, आप शायद कुछ लोग अवेयर नहीं है।
I think we will discuss in English, so I think Michael is with us, so he can understand as well.
Okay, well, I just like to clear very important thing, which is unfortunately we are not being clear. Number one, we are considering shale gas as exactly what others said, as a strategic asset. Number one, we from last 3 years, I was and me and OGDC management was compelling PPL to join us for this project. But unfortunately, they were always looking and questioning this economics. And I really don't like economics, particularly when we are going for strategic decision. So we went to the government of Pakistan. OGDC said, whether any company join us or does not join us, we will go and prove the concept of shale gas potential in Pakistan by drilling well, by fracking it and doing a horizontal well up to 2,000 meters. And then we will do a 10 well as a pilot project for the understanding of the shale gas and for proving that the shale gas can produce whatever the amount is. It is a producible, it's frackability. We did a frack job, mini frack job, we did in Sambar Shale. It has proven that shale gradient we have observed, the 15,000 psi was the frac pressure we got, and it is a frackable. It is a producible. By even perforating this shale, we produce 0.86 million gas as well. So 0.86 million by perforating the shale, we got a gas production, and that encouraged us to go for shale gas project. So that is why OGDC successfully drilled up to December. Because of these logistic and COVID issue, we could not bring that liner. Otherwise, at this point, we could have results of the perforation and horizontal well. So planning is they are now completed the well at the top of December. They will drill down and put the liner and do the fracking, and then they will decide about the horizontal well. Whatever you are saying, exactly this is the strategy. And after that,
Okay.
when test the shale gas policy, probably will initiate, we will initiate the shale gas policy according to the productivity, and then the pilot project probably do 2, 3, 4, 8 wells are under consideration for the pilot well. So from that data, we will be much be able to explain to the
Jadun
world,
sir,
yes,
I
that
think
shale
you,
has been
be brief, be brief. There are others as well.
आपकी बात बिल्कुल ठीक है. Going back into English, what you said, it's right. But see, you said yourself that even PPL, which is a government-owned enterprise, and I don't want to speak for PPL. Tariq is sitting there. Maybe अगर थोड़ा सा उर्दू में बोलने दें कि अगर आप उनको कहते ना कि गवर्नमेंट ये आपको यकीन दिलाती है कि आपका 20% सर्कुलर डेट है वो हम रिजॉल्व कर देंगे, आप इनके साथ उसमें चले जाएं शेल गैस में, दे वुड हैव गॉन. तो हर एक को इकोनॉमिक्स देखनी है. हमें इसकी एक देखें, आउट ऑफ बॉक्स चीजें सोचे ना. आप ये कहें, you say कि the companies who will participate in this pilot, don't call it pilot, but initial project of 100 wells or 50 wells, they will get this incentive. So not only the public sector, but even private sector companies will come and join your hands with you. But you have to show them light at the end of the tunnel.
नहीं फराज साहब देखें, ये बिल्कुल ऐसा ही है कि ये आपके अपने बच्चों की जैसे, I mean, this is the, if you think that the shale is important for us, for the energy security of this nation, now that you need to understand that's your future bloodline, right? So what does it mean? It means that you would have to invest even if you don't make money. That's what it is. So if you are not making money, I give you the other example, what the Malaysians are doing. The Malaysians, they have the company called Petronas Charigali, and they were doing all the jobs on the, just like any other business. But there is another company within the Petronas, which is the Petronas, which is the parent company. They also drill wells, just like DGPC or Ministry of Petroleum. They drill wells by their own, they have their own staff, regardless what is the economics, because they thought that certain areas need to be developed strategically, because that would be enhancement and opening up of the new exploration plays with any other won't go to exploit it. So now here is exactly the same case. As I said, the three companies I mentioned, Shale, in 1950s, they came for what? What was the reason? They wanted to exploit, they know the geology. The only thing they have at that time, the geology, the concepts, an idea, without having any seismic, without having any well control. And they drilled so many wells. Now, still those wells are our example. Every time we are using those analogs as a one important aspect. Now, this is important that the companies, as Jadun said, that the PPL was not participating. I mean, that's just simply an excuse. Why the OGDC, the biggest national oil company, they don't drill a pilot project by their own?
We drilled it. We drilled it. That's what I'm saying.
You drilled only one well, sir. वो भी complete नहीं है.
Sir, let's well, now we are talking about a set of big number of wells. So we have to have deep pockets for that. So nobody has that. Although the OGDC and PPL doing a little bit better in the economy, in overall in the country, but they still consider their survivals, and they are going through some difficult patch here. So this may be an idea to involve more companies, not only two state-owned companies, but make a consortium, but tell them that you will get this benefit if you are part of this consortium.
This is let's kind of move on this discussion, gentlemen. In fact, these are very nice discussions. I think what we discussed is what Dr. Sahib has said is that we are OGDC is leading this effort. They are establishing the technical producibility and everything of shale, which is wonderful. Now, since OGDC is already doing that, Dr. Sahib, may I ask you, in fact, what do you expect this forum to contribute in that process? What is it that is missing in there? Because you have kind of planned a well. That well has been kind of partially drilled, so that it is progressing. So from yourself, Dr. Said, What do you think are the gaps? Where can this forum help you?
Yes, this forum can only help in the formulation of the shale gas policy on the basis of the available information and data and model available all over the world. We will decide according to our own environment, but mostly government is looking for this, particularly this shale productivity data. The already drill well, we tested well, UEPL tested some well as well. I know that as well. So we proved that shale is producible in Pakistan, but little bit companies are being frustrated, having a not more incentive because there's no policy. So people say, as Tarek and other people are saying, there's no incentive, why people will go. So what government said, we will give you incentive if there is a proven system. Yes, we will have something, and on that basis they will make a policy. This forum can help us in the following way. Number one,
absolutely,
they should give us.
Sir, this is one area. Let me suggest you another thing. In fact, Mr. Mukati is here, and he really I didn't listen to him much today, unfortunately, and I'm sure he will speak something, at least give us some few words of his at his conclusion. But from in this forum, there are many people. What do you think, if whatever the plans OGDC has made, if from us a small review team can basically do a supportive kind of review of their plans? I'm sure that the plans are wonderful, they would be perfect, but will that add any value in that in your plans?
It may help us. I don't think so. They will be. I don't know. Maybe we can ask them. But the plan is as follow. The plan is as follow. I'm just saying. The plan is as follow. If there is any problem, then we can talk. The plan is that they will drill a vertical. The well will be drilled vertically. They will, after logging, they will test that particular zone, the best shale gas zone, because on site we were having all the TOC and all the geochemical analysis will be on site as well as from the lab as well. So after geochemical analysis, geomechanical studies, once they know what areas are better producible, they will do the horizontal felt per 2,000 meter. After 2,000 meters, the frac is already designed according to the previous study, but probably they will redo again after having a test from that Sambar shale, and they will do a 20 frac sets in that horizontal well, and they will produce. This is a simple concept and simple things.
Will they do any mini frac or anything in the vertical well?
Yes, they have already done it. We already done it in that area. And again, they will do a frac job in a vertical well to see what is the best product. There will be 3 zones. They will be fracking. So from 3 zones, they will be probably choosing the best productivity zone, and from that zone, they will start doing a horizontal well.
But the problem will be that if they frac horizontal well, then when they drill horizontal well from there, and that may the frac of the horizontal well may interact with the frac that you already have done in vertical well. So these are the kind of things that I think it would be very useful if we can have a detailed discussion on that, sir.
If they at that point in time we can approach to them and we can discuss. I don't think so there will be any problem.
So we can have this similar like virtual session, Mukati Saab, and everybody can join in. And do you think there is another thing is many people have talked about data confidentiality and all that thing. Do you think that within this forum we need to sign any NDA document?
At this point in time, we will only talk about rock science and rock physics rather than reserves and things, because companies on a stock exchange and no company likes to share any data relating to commercial things. So I don't think we should go into that detail. We will talk about rock physics and frackability and science rather than going to particular to the reserves area, which is not good for any company to be disclosed, except whatever has been disclosed in the DGPC books or energy book. So sometimes companies don't share this kind of data.
Dr. Saab, I doubt that OGDC will even agree for such an help that we are going to look at your plan and make it.
Maybe you are right. They may not agree.
This is with all the kind of us.
they may hire some of us as their consultants, but they will not give it to this forum to discuss those.
Not forum. We are not. It's very difficult. Definitely, you are right.
Well,
Anyway, let them.
This is very interesting. If somebody is providing their services free of cost, but no, they want to purchase that,
Yes, they want to be confident on that.
All right. Okay. Okay. Good.
It's not a difficult plan. It's very simple and logical. People are doing all these things. So I don't think any company will, they will ask us to give us your view. But as a professional view, we can make some kind of observation.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Anyway,
Mukati Saab, would you like to make some comments? Sorry, say it again.
Yes.
I'm saying we are at the end of the session now. It's 2:31.
Sure.
We already have it 2 hours now. So let's close it.
Confirm.
And please, final comments from your side, and then we'll close it.
Yes.
So no, this was wonderful. Our discussion was a little bit scattered and bit unstructured, but we discussed many useful things. My takeaway from this is that we have to little bit more and refine this tight gas policy. How that it is there. Frankly speaking, let me admit that I have not gone through tight gas policy myself, and we will go through this thing. And I think I suggest that I myself and with Saki Saab will try to summarize this the outcome of this tight gas policy and what can be done. I personally of the view that through simulation studies we can achieve many things. This is one thing. What TOGC has discussed. Fantastic. How we can help them in simplifying that. That will come under tight gas policy. We really applause OGDC's efforts in kind of leading shale gas development, and I don't know if Tariq Hasni Saab can kind of pass on these comments to PPL management, and he is also part of the management, that how other companies can follow that similar thing, maybe at their own. We really have to do these efforts. Then we discussed about our service sector, our capacity in service sector. What can we do? What are the easiest things to be done over here that can help other companies? I think that's wonderful. It was a great session. Anyone else?
If you give me 5 minutes, I need to talk. I need to just define a little bit on tight gas, lower Guru sands and Sambar sands. I will have 5 minutes.
Yes.
No, Safdar Saab, I suggest that I really wanted to have your couple of slides discussion and give more time. Now, since everybody is in a kind of mood that to leave this session, it may not be very useful.
Okay,
you may not get that attention. You may not get that attention.
This is a great session. It's a wonderful session today. We have discussed quite a lot of things, but I would suggest that if you set certain questions in the beginning of the seminar, and then we try to get the answers. So
wonderful idea. Great idea. I will try to send you those questions beforehand so that you can kind of have those things in structure. I will have a big more discussion with Said Jidoon Saab, and sure, that's a good idea. Wonderful idea, Tariq.
Let's get in right now. I think Ali Mukati, he is leading unconventional department in Saudi Aramco, and definitely we have to take his final overview because he's listened very calmly. So I will request Ali Mukati to please share his views.
I want to listen. I want to listen to Mukati. Yes, please.
No, it's actually it's fine. It's fine if it is time to go. We can go and we can always continue afterward. So I'm not really like in saying that I must exert whatever my opinions are, but one small thing, and I said during this discussion and last discussion, we have identified that we have some opportunity more than shale gas and tight gas. So tight gas seems like a more close, more like something has been done. Some companies even saying that they even produce something out of it, right? So that's just like a more close goal we can achieve. So now this is not a really good, this is the question that what we found the problem, what is the challenge? Challenge is that we have reservoirs where we find tight and non-tight in very close proximities. And that is making difficult for people, I mean, the companies or government or something to assign the area or some other thing into a tight or non-tight stuff, right? Well by well. Is it like, so we have to find solution for our problem, and our problem is this mixing. So is it possible that our policy should be some kind of a mixed baggage rather than saying tight or non-tight? You say you block-wise certain kind of percentage of production and other things. If that follows like some kind of a mix, is it possible? I mean, just I'm thinking that there is a challenge. So one at the moment they are doing well by well. I don't know, they are feeling that it is not working well and the policy and everything procedure takes long time. And then other people are saying somehow should be block or other thing that allows investors to see as a one big package where they can think of. So now is it like what kind of solution? That this is the biggest challenge now, right? Set how we set the policy or recommend the policy to the government that allows that kind of a incentive to work in this situation. So Marcos has
Can I say one word? Yes, in this place, because I would like to make a proposal that for the next meeting we'll prepare our suggestions of new regulations that might be improved and changed in terms of main regulations of the tight gas policy. So we'll make our proposal a few points, which in our opinion are the most important, and if we change them, that might be improve the situation, or it might be more attractive for the investors.
So not only so one company, yes. So that means maybe more companies have some other suggestions how we can invite those kind of suggestions in one place.
We'll prepare kind of a presentation, few slides for the next meeting, and this might be good starting point for the further discussion on the
sure good idea
future of tight gas policy, right?
Fantastic idea. Good idea. Okay.
That's good.
Anyone else? Hello.
Minasab, I would suggest what he has just said is fine, that they can prepare some initial presentation, but in the last two sessions, the discussions that we have we got some good points out of it. It's only we have to extract from the discussion some of the things that were discussed, and some of them are even agreed upon. So once if we can get this presentation in time, we can also incorporate those things that were maybe in a different font or something. So what we have discussed in these two discussions, so it will be a comprehensive thing to move forward in the next meeting.
Absolutely, that's good. Now another thing is how we can, Dr. Said Saab, can we have somebody from DGPC join this this forum?
I will ask somebody now. Next time I will ask somebody. Basically, I forgot this week. I should have asked them, but now I will ask them. Maybe we can invite somebody.
This is very important, especially with this policy thing and everything.
Yes. Now, sir, just finally, from my side, thank you very much to all the for both achieve fruitful. We had good discussions and we learned a lot of good new things. Anyway, and Nasser, the other request to you is to please document all these discussions point by point and please circulate it to the participant so that we will be able to make any input into it. So anybody who has not given any input into it.
We will compile the previous one as well. We'll merge both these things, and it will be like a living document. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sure.
From that, so we will formulate the recommendation.
Absolutely. No worries.
Anyway,
thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
All the participants.
Thank you.
ताहिर, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने बड़ा अच्छा ऑर्गेनाइज किया. डॉक्टर सईद जदून, हक मिनहास साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you.
माशाल्लाह, वेरी नाइस.